HIV/AIDS focal person, but Mbale, but I also support Uganda AIDS Commission in the region in delivering these messages on HIV and AIDS response. I'm here to share some statistics in the HIV/AIDS response, especially that we are in the fight against HIV and HIV by 2030. And I wanted to share some statistics relating to HIV situation in Uganda. I know that now our HIV prevalence is at 4.9%, but of course when you break it down into male and female, of course the male are at 3.3% and then the female at 6.3%. So this means that the women are more at risk than the men in the HIV/AIDS infection. But when we look at Mbale city, of course our prevalence is at 4.9%, and our Mbale rural is at 3.3%, meaning that within this area we still have a lot of work to do. But of course with this, when we talk about people living with HIV in Uganda, we have 1.527, which means that over 1.5 million of our people have HIV and they are living with the virus. The men are 570,000 and the women are 930,000, meaning that we have only 1.3 million people on treatment. That implies that over 200,000 people are living with the virus in Uganda, but they have not gone to be enrolled on treatment. Of course, new infection, it was very high, but we have done some work, it has reduced. People who have or who contract HIV annually are 37,000. Of course, this dropped from a lot of people who are getting infected by then, but people still, even in the era where we have treatment, we still have people who die as a result of HIV. And of course, as a country, we lose 20,000 people every year to HIV. And to us, I think this is not acceptable, because we have the means to ensure that people can live longer and that people can die of their old age. But however, what is worrying us is the infections within the young people. And I want to also break down the statistics of our young people in this country in relation to HIV. Young people living with HIV in this country are 150,000 young people living with HIV. But I will break it down within boys, with the boys and girls. Of course, the boys, we are taking only a cohort of between 15 and 24 years. Boys living with HIV are 40,000. And the girls, 15 years and 24 living with HIV are 100,010. So meaning that when you look through, it is almost that the girls are 3 times more at risk than the boys. And then we look at the adolescents. Adolescents, we are talking about age between 10 and 19. Between 10 and 19, the total is 85,000 adolescents are living with HIV. But when you break it down into boys and girls, the boys 10 years to 19, 35,000 in this country are living with HIV. And the girls 10 to 19 years, 110,000 are living with HIV. These statistics are very worrying, very worrying. Of course, now we get worried, what are we going to do about this? So when we talk about the boys, 10 to 19, 35,000 living with HIV, and the girls, 10 to 19, 50,000 living with HIV. But when we look at the children, we are talking about those between 0 and 14 years, 71,000 they are living with HIV. So meaning that there is a lot we still have to do as a country, because our people, more and more of our people are getting infected with HIV, because you can't have 37,000 people getting infected with HIV annually. This we cannot be able to accept, and we need to do something about it. But when we talk about our region here, our region, Elgon region especially, the people who are living with HIV are 43,000. 43,000 are people who are living with HIV. And our prevalence in Elgon region is 3%, 3.0%. But the new infections, people who are getting infected with HIV annually in this Elgon zone are 1,180. So over 1,000 people getting infected with HIV annually, it is not acceptable. So when I break down the younger people who are getting infected with HIV annually, total number of young people who are getting infected with HIV is 14,000 in this country. Young men between 15 and 24 who get HIV annually, or the new infections, 3,000 boys get infected with HIV on an annual basis. And when we talk about the young girls, 15 to 24 years, who get infected with HIV annually, are 11,000. That is very alarming. And then when we go to adolescents who get infected with HIV annually, 10 years to 19, they are 6,000 in total get HIV between 10 years and 19. But when we break them down into boys and girls, the girls who get infected with HIV annually, adolescents 10 to 19 years, are 5,500. And the boys between 10 and 19 who get infected with HIV are only 500. So meaning that still when you look at this statistic, it is times a number of girls. So meaning that as we do programming, we need to really refocus ourselves to see how can we support the young girls. Children 0 to 14 years who get infected on annually, they are 4,700. 4,700. But when you look at the total in the adults, which is 4.9%, but men contribute only 3.4%, women contribute 6.4%. So meaning that half the number are getting infected than the women. So when we look at the percentages, young people are contributing towards the statistics of HIV and AIDS in this country. Young people between 15 and 24 who are getting infected on an annual basis are 14,000. Young men 15 to 24, 30%. I mean 20% because they are 3,000, so they contribute a percentage which is 20%. And then the younger women 15 to 24, which is 11,000, they contribute 78%. So when we look at the total, you will see that they are contributing the biggest percentage of the new infections. So this one gives us a worry that unless we do something about our younger people, then we cannot be able to achieve our vision of ending HIV by 2030. But I will look at the districts within the region. When you look at Mbale city, the prevalence is at 4.9%. But the people who get infected annually in Mbale city are 330%. I mean 330 people get infected with HIV on an annual basis. And when we look at people who are living with HIV in Mbale city are 12,000. When we come to Mbale district, the prevalence is 3.3%. People who get infected annually are 140. And the people who are living with HIV in Mbale are 5,500. Manafa district, the prevalence is 1.9%. People who get infected on annual basis are 50. And the people who are living with HIV are 2,200. When we look at Bududa district, we have 1.4% of prevalence. People who get infected on an annual basis are 70. and those who are living with HIV are 2,800. When we look at Namisindwa, the prevalence is 2.2%. People who get infected with HIV on an annual basis are 120, and the people living with HIV are 4,700. When we look at Sironko district, the prevalence is 3.0%. People who get infected on an annual basis is 130, and the people who are living with HIV are 5,500. When we look at Bulambuli district, the prevalence is 2.9%. People who are getting infected annually are 130, and the people who are living with HIV are 5,300. So when you look at Budaka, the prevalence is 2.9%. The people who are getting infected on an annual basis are 110, and the people who are living with HIV in Budaka are 5,200. When we look at Butaleja, the prevalence is 1.2%. People who get infected on an annual basis are 80. 80 people get infected annually, and the people who are living with HIV are 3,200. And when you look at Tororo, which is our neighbor here, their prevalence is 4.8%, and the people who get infected on an annual basis 390, and people who are living with HIV are 19,000. So this means that our statistics, we are not doing well, especially with our vision of ending HIV by 2030, meaning that we need to really do a lot of work to ensure that we can be able to get there. But however, of course, there are major causes of these infections, especially in our young people. One is that sometimes as parents we don't properly supervise our children. Especially we know that the girl child is very, very vulnerable, but we do not supervise them properly. In this region, sometimes we have had our cultural institutions and they do their activities. Like for us now in January, next year we are studying our Kadodi, but sometimes we don't supervise our young people. We let them free, we let them off, and sometimes they have followed, danced, and got problems. Of course, when we look at our hostels in this region, not only this region, I know even other regions it is happening the same way. We have so many residential houses which have been converted into hostels, but these hostels lack supervision, and especially hostels want to keep the girls, because girls pay better and they pay on time. So sometimes the hostels have opted to house the girls, but they house them, but they do not supervise them. There are some girls who go out, never come back, and nobody cares. In the night they walk out, nobody stops them. So meaning that because of lack of supervision, again our hostels are becoming the hotspots. These days men who used to buy women on streets, now they are targeting hostels, because the hostels, they find they are cheap commodities. We know that we have our young girls who stay in hostels, and there are lots of things they need in their life. So definitely, because as parents we cannot provide 100%, sometimes they are tempted, and that temptation has come with the infections, have come with the pregnancies. I want to say that because the girls we are having in hostels, because we are not supervising our children properly, our children these days, they have a tendency of clubbing. They talk about clubbing because they go to the club to dance, but in clubs there are so many things which happen there. These days they call themselves modern, and modern, of course, those days people used to smoke cigarettes, but these days, because they are modern, they smoke what they call shisha. And this shisha is killing most especially our young girls, because they are the ones, when you go to a club and you look at people who are taking shisha, you will find that 80% are girls and young girls, because To them it is a fashion, to them it is a style, to them it is modern. So this shisha is really destroying our young people. Of course, shisha, it is a drug, and we saw somebody takes a drug and is high, you can't think properly, you can't do things the right way. So definitely it means that we need a lot of supervision for our young people. You parents, if you have your children staying in hostels, you need to go there, find out where is your child living, and how is the supervision, and how is the restriction, so that you can know that your child is there and is safe. Of course, we know very well that sometimes we have had maybe children are breaking off this time. Now they are in holidays, but you will find that most especially the girls, they want to go to auntie, they want to go to sister, they want to go to cousin, and sometimes eventually they don't reach. Sometimes eventually they are going to sister because there is somebody they meet at sister's place. So we appeal to our parents that please, the children, be around them, let them be around you, supervise them. And of course, this appeal also goes to our young people, especially the girls, because we know they are more at risk. Please, when you get holidays, stay home, help your parents. Stay home, do work at home. That will keep you safer. At that times, your peers might influence you and you find yourself in big problems. Of course, the effects are that once you get HIV, you live with it until you die. That is psychologically bad. We know very well that when you get infected, you have to enroll on treatment. But treatment is for life. You will not stop the treatment until you will die. So definitely that is not a good situation at all. That's why we ask our people, if you can avoid it, please do it. If you can't avoid it, please protect yourself. So that's why we appeal to our young people, we appeal to parents, that it is our responsibility to ensure that we can work together to end HIV by 2030. But if we don't do that, then the generation which comes after us is still going to have the same challenges like we are having today. And we want to tell our young people, please, if you are going to school, you need to abstain. Abstain until you finish your school. If you can't, please protect yourself. If you have somebody and you can't help it, please go and test together. We know that the government president launched the Presidential Fast Track Initiative of 95. We want you to make a contribution towards the first 95. First 95 is that all people who are positive should know that they are positive. But there is no way you can know that you are positive unless you go and take a test. So we appeal to our people to take it upon themselves to ensure that they take the HIV test. And once you take a test, please, if you are positive, go to treatment. If you are not positive, ensure that you keep yourself negative. Ensure that you keep yourself safe. If you are on treatment, ensure that you adhere to treatment. Because once you adhere to treatment, then you will never have any of these ailments which disturb you because of HIV. You cannot get TB, you cannot get meningitis. Why? Because you have taken your treatment and your body is functioning properly. So we appeal to our people that please go and take a test. And then when you test and you are positive, please enroll on treatment. We have research that people who have been on treatment and you are taking your treatment and you adhere, people can live up to old age. So we don't want to lose you when you are still productive and making a contribution to this country, to your family. So we don't want to lose you early. We want you to take a test. If you are positive, go treatment. If you are on treatment, ensure that you adhere to treatment, and we shall live a normal life, and we shall contribute to our families and contribute to this country. Parents, that please, we need to talk to our children. I know for us in Mbale district, and Mbale City, the parents who talk to their children about HIV, they are only 42%, meaning that 58% of our parents don't talk to their children about HIV. And if children don't hear it from you, they will never take it serious. So that's why we want our parents to take it upon themselves, ensure that they have a talk with their young people, especially the girls, that there is HIV, and please, you do 1 or 2, 3 things, you get infected. Once you are infected, you will live with the virus the rest of your life. So we wish that our parents would be able to take that on, and our young people also take that responsibility of ensuring that they stay safe. If they are positive, ensure that they go on treatment, and they will live a normal life like any other person.